Hi, I'm Edmi Bekasi. I come here is 2000, same like Pastor Uplerbeck.
Maybe that's a perfect lead-in. As Ethne said, she was here from 2000, and that's when our use of the word partnership with Emmanuel Indonesian began. And probably, I came as pastor in, I think, June of 2000. And one Sunday during the summer when there are not a lot of people here, after service, Ethne and MacArthur, where he's hiding, so there he is, came up to me after service and said, we're part of an Indonesian community and we're looking for a place to worship. And we wondered if Holy Trinity might be available on Sunday afternoons for us to worship, to gather and worship. And I said, well, I think so, but I'll have to talk to the church council at that time. And I had some history. I was pastor in Virginia, and we had a Korean church that met with us. But they were renters, and we were the landlords. And it wasn't the best of situations. And so I suggested that maybe we could form a kind of a partnership, not a landlord and a tenant relationship. And indeed, as was shared today, when a number of Emmanuel's members said, well, we're part of Emmanuel and part of Holy Trinity, that was the goal. And I felt very warm when that was said today. And because to share together is what ministry is all about. And this has been a partnership that's been strong over the years. But lots of changes. And so we thought that we would talk today a little bit about the history, the beginning, and then kind of where Emmanuel is at today, and then as Emmanuel views the future. In this partnership, Holy Trinity has profited in so many ways of making new friends, of having, as today when Adi read the lessons in Indonesian, a little familiarity with Indonesia and what is about that, but also they'll share a little bit today about what it's like to be an immigrant in New Hampshire, which is not an easy task by any means. And so I'll have Ethne talk a little bit about the history, just briefly, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the present. I think Adi is going to do a little bit of that, and the future. So,
Thank you. Thank you for this time. Thank you for the opportunity to us to give time to talk a little bit short story about how we began to came to this church. The first time I remember before I called here, I went to the other church, and then one Sunday I called here, and Pastor of the day took the phone, and I asked, what time you service in the Lutheran? And remember, right, Pastor? Yeah. I'm looking the church for the join, and Pastor of the deck said, oh, I just moved from Virginia. This is in June. So I told that I will not came here with the family. We moved from California, we looking at church, and then we came here. So Pastor of the deck and really welcome us. We are very happy because before we went to the other church, not feeling better. No. But when we came here, we are very happy because all the congregation welcome us, and then Pastor of the deck very happy to having us too. So that's the short story. So after that, we came join worship together here, and then I called some friends. Do you have a church yet? They said, oh, not yet. Can you come join with us in the Lutheran church? Okay, we came together. And then, like couple months, we are together, but because we came from Indonesia, some of us still not talking English very good, so we talk together. How about we ask Pastor to, can we use a small meeting room here to worship here because we're gonna call Indonesian pastor because we not really understand. We really enjoy in here, but our English, no. Even now, my English is still no good. So Pastor Lynn told, okay, I'm gonna talk with the congregation. If they allow to come to visit, to worship here, we can let you know. And we're waiting, but we have some people, maybe 20, 25 members, and then we grow up, and we call a pastor from California to come to here to join with us to be a pastor. And we, the first worship, we ran the hotel, not the hotel, we ran a small meeting room in the hotel to start worship because we're still waiting to worship here, but we didn't have answer. But we still, some families still come to worship together here in the morning. But in the afternoon, we ran a small room in the hotel to worship until September, and we have a pastor from California, and we start like a small congregation, and then I asked again to pastor, okay, you can, next month, you can get answer. And the simple story, and November, I think, Pastor. November, Pastor Oderbeck, October, Pastor Oderbeck told us, oh, I got the good news at me. The congregation is really happy to having you guys to start here. Oh, okay, so thank you very much for the support. And we start in November 2000. We start to worship here with the like 20 to 30 members, and we grow up and grow up. And then September, we start to be, we use the Indonesia Protestant Church. And then after November, we start here, we worship in the afternoon because we have a place for afternoon after morning worship. And then we going to month by month and year by year, we still worship together, and then some still come in the morning, and we talk to pastor, maybe we're gonna join to Lutheran, to be a Lutheran. After that, in January, Pastor Robert Wawaruntu, because before is Pastor Sandra, she was to continue her school, so she's quit as a pastor here. And we call Pastor Robert to continue our congregation. And we start here November to be a Indonesia Protestant Church. And after that, year by year, we asking pastor to apply to be Lutheran. But the process we're doing like 2-3 years to get, because our pastor have to be studying to Philadelphia, I think. And then finally we have to go to the Synod meeting, and then the Synod come here to looking us how many members we are. And then we have a lot of congregation here to help us to be a member. I remember Dot Kasich the first time to help us, and the other member too to give us how to be a member. And we keep going. And finally, in May 2007, we get installation as a Lutheran church. So that's the short story. And then the future after that, maybe after you can continue about the we are now. I just talk about the start, how to begin.
Shall I continue?
There's a whole process of how a pastor is ordained in the Lutheran Church. And Pastor Robert was a Reformed church. He was ordained in Indonesia and was a Reformed pastor. And Reformed and Lutheran are kind of cousins, argue a lot, but still kind of cousins. And so he went through this process of learning and studying and kind of being approved by the Synod in Worcester. And so then he was then ordained as a Lutheran pastor, and indeed Emmanuel then applied and became a Lutheran congregation. A lot of little hoops you have to jump through, and they did that very well. One of the things real quickly is, as you see sometimes, I see people cleaning up out there. We leave the church in kind of a mess after Sunday morning. And then the Emmanuel Indonesian would come in the afternoon. And when they left the church, it was spotless. Absolutely spotless. And that was something that most of the congregation never even realized that this was going on, of how they cared for the church building as much as it was their own as it was. And so that was special. And so, please.
Thank you. Yeah, even though Mark in the office said, you don't need to do the cleaning because we have a cleaning service that comes every Tuesday. But still, we keep doing it. It's like we own you guys. So we want to make this church as clean and as a happy place for us. So Edme already share about the history, it's like the past of Emmanuel, and I would like my daughter to add a little bit more about how we have like our second generation. We are like first generation of Indonesian come here in the area. So she is the second generation. So I would like her to share a little bit about the kids, how she deals with the kids.
Hi, everyone. So to add a little bit of context, my mom, my sister, and I moved here in 2002, and I was 7. And so, is this good? Okay. I was 7 years old, so I was still attending Sunday school, and after Sunday school, we had sort of a tradition where after we sort of graduated Sunday school and we started confirmation, we would start teaching the younger grades of Sunday school and helping with that. So at the time, there were probably close to 20, maybe, kids broken up into, I'd say like under 6 years old, being like the younger class, and then an older class of kids as well. But yeah, we had, I remember just being a part of really both churches, during Christmas or Easter. We used to have the kulintang instruments that some of the congregation members would play and angklung, the kids would also play instruments called angklung. And also Ms. Leslie Darling, she was a member here. I think she's moved to New York now, but one of the liturgical dances, she asked for members of both congregations to dance in, and I grew up dancing in Indonesia as well, and so I participated in that, and I actually started taking classes with her because she had a dance studio. But yeah, and so growing up, after Sunday school, the Emmanuel kids would take confirmation classes together with the Holy Trinity kids. And so we went through that. We went on the youth group trips together, as well as the Camp Calumet weekends, and what else was there? The youth conventions, the ELCA ones that happened once every 4 years. We all went on those together as well. But I think since then, I want to say probably around the time I was in high school, so like 2010 through 13-ish, I think we had a lot of members really struggling with immigration, and so they had to move, or they had to go back home to Indonesia, move to other states, and so I think the current, or I guess sort of the last generation of the second generation of kids who were born here, who went sort of through the same experience that I went through Sunday school here. They're now in college now, or starting college. But yeah, so right now there's not really as much youth in the church anymore. But that was sort of my experience, I guess, growing up in the two churches.
Thank you. Now that brings us to the immigration. Most of us came here, have to go through the asylum process. So some of them get approved, like all of us here, most of us here, and some of them didn't get approved. They didn't get approved here, but maybe in other state they could get approved, so they went that way. But some of them, like, well, this is not for us, so they went back home. So that's part of the immigration. So when she was teenagers, there were like in our, charter, there were about 150 of us. That was when we got the approval, became Lutheran, ELCA. But since Pastor Robert had to move out, it's go down and down and down until now, probably around 20 of us every Sunday. So we've been without pastor for several years, and my husband, like, in charge, serving as president for I don't know how many years. No one wants to replace him. So, but then we got like a bit of hope there that Pastor Esther came last year, and we kind of like her. So we wanted her to come back. She came just for a visit, and she came back to Indonesia last year, and then we started process how to get her to come here and become our pastor. So the process is kind of long, and you know, immigration, it's a very complicated process. We were very, very grateful that after we have a meeting, that Holy Trinity could help us in order for her to come by giving some money and then put it on the application form. So we are waiting for her now to come back here, and she will apply for a visa. When she comes here, as soon as she comes here, we will file for what we call an R1 visa. It takes, I don't know, hopefully though, it will be like faster, the process now, because we are thinking about this, like, we hope that it will be faster. One thing we can see now about not only immigration, the Indonesian here, like we are in our congregation, there were only like maybe 24 of us. But in other congregation, we see like Indonesian coming. Like, whoa, there are new members there. Whoa, there are new members there. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like how many, like maybe every week we hear someone's coming. That's in this area, not in New York or Philadelphia. I just heard from Tommy. He said like, because we're gonna have like an election next year, and we have election every 5 years. Like 5 years ago, here, 300, now it's 800, about 800. But in Philadelphia there, Pennsylvania, used to be 800 and now 2,000. So there are lots of Indonesian coming and they can come. So means like they can apply visa and they get visa. So people are coming here. So it looks like it's getting much easier because before it's like it's so difficult to get a visas coming. And that's our hope. So if for our future, that's our hope. If we have a pastor, because people will come to church if they have a pastor, right? We have Pastor Luther now, and we can see like people, the Holy Trinity is getting more people comes. I can see that because I sit here and then I can see, oh, there are lots of new people, and there are people from before comes back. So it's something that we hope for Emmanuel also. So if we have a pastor, that's our hope that people from Indonesia will come and then, oh yeah, there's a pastor here, so we can come, we can ask them to come here. And also, we also hope that if we have pastor, that we can approach those who never go to church or our old members that don't go to church anywhere else in the area, we can ask them to come. And also, what Irin just said, there are some youth out there. They really wants to go to church. They really wants to, because they're mostly like English-speaking kids, right? Indonesian people, most of us like who came our first generation, kids speaks English, adults speak Indonesian. So it's like Indonesian and English, and they both understand each other. So this youth now who are, maybe some of them already graduated, or some of them are still in college, but they long for gathering as a Christian church base. Some of them also talk to me, they want it, but we don't have anyone who can gather them, and then not necessarily on Sunday here, but maybe somewhere out there. So they want that. So maybe we can get them and then be with us again, and then we'll see them. Maybe we can grow. That's our hope. That's the hope of Candlelights. I think that's, unless Tommy, whoever wants to add some more. If you have questions, yes. Lois.
Would that new person who comes have to be become a Lutheran minister like Pastor Robert?
I think that is the process. At least they can come here, they can preach, they can do whatever, but then in order for he or her to be a Lutheran pastor, they have to have a process.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes.
I guess maybe I heard or misheard, but did you say it's easier to get a visa in Pennsylvania or somewhere else than it is in New Hampshire? Because that's a federal issue. I would think it's not.
Let me give a brief experience of that. I went down to the immigration court in Boston, the federal court in Boston, where the hearings would take place with some of the members of Emmanuel 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And as they walked in the courtroom, they would tell me there were 3 immigration judges that would make the determination. And they would tell me as they walked in, if they get Judge A, they'll be accepted. If they get Judge B, well, maybe they will, maybe they won't. It all depends on what their case for amnesty, and asylum is. But if they get Judge C, they're not going to be accepted. So a lot has to do with the federal court judges, which if you were in Pennsylvania, you'd go to a federal court judge in Harrisonburg or wherever it is, as compared to the federal judges in Boston.
I didn't get the first part, but the visa to come here, they have to apply it in Indonesia. As soon as they got here, then they have to apply it through the asylum process. That's, if they get approved, they get approved through the court. They have to go through court. We were lucky enough, we didn't get to go to court, so we got approved when I got interviewed. So it looks like they trust me. No need to go to. Most of us have to go to that process. That's, thanks be to God. That's immigration. Even Admi here, she's been here for, I don't know, 28 years. And she just got her green card like this year, 2 years ago, and then she can go back to Indonesia after 20 years old. So she'll be going soon, visit Indonesia. Yes.
One of the reasons we're holding this forum is because in August, Tommy and Adie came to the council, and they were describing the problems that they were having in terms of keeping their current congregation and being able to grow going forward. And back a while ago, they had Pastor Robert. He left and went back to California. And they had a pastor, Esther, who had been here, and really the congregation started to come together. But unfortunately, her visa expired and she had to go back. So we decided as a council that we put together a task force. And the task force was Adie, Lynn, and myself. And we got together to find out exactly what needed to be done to get Esther here. And what we discovered is that there were basically 3 key components to have Esther come here. She will be coming here as an R1 visa. And what that means is that the congregation has got to be able to pay her at least $25,000 the first year that she comes. They have to provide housing for at least the first year. And the pastor can only be a pastor. She cannot do anything except being a pastor. So she can't work outside to get extra money or something. So as long as it's pastoral services, she's okay. So when we met, we put together a paper that we gave to the council. And what we found in that paper is that the congregation, number one, has the housing set up. So Pastor Esther, when she comes, she'll have housing. The second thing is that Pastor Esther understands that when she comes, she can only do services as a pastor. So that's okay. The sticky point is that the congregation is a fairly small congregation, as they explained, and they've been able to raise in pledges $15,000 so far. But they need to have 25. So we proposed to the council that we pledge the other $10,000. And the council agreed to do that. And we have an account, I just have to look this up. It's called the, it's the, no, this is the name of it, no designated fund. I didn't even realize it was on the books as an asset. But anyway, we pledged $10,000 from that to the congregation, so they would have the $25,000. This has to be voted on by the congregation at the annual meeting, which will be in January. And the reason we wanted to have this forum is so that you'd have an understanding of the connection that we have had with this church for so many years. And we've had some wonderful times. We've had joint services together. We have celebrated during the summertime together. And everybody loves to eat their food. Whenever we have something, it seems like the hot dogs and hamburgers everybody forgets about. Whatever the Indonesian people bring, that's where everybody wants to eat. So that was the idea behind having this particular adult forum. So this is something we want to support this congregation. And we know what it's like to be without a pastor. And we know what it's like to finally get a pastor who's here full time. So anyway, that's the way we can help them. And that's what we would like to vote on in January. So any questions or thoughts? Yes?
No, I just wanted to say that worshiping or being able to worship in your own language is close to my heart. I've been in Sweden for 2.5 years now, and it's very special, so I can understand that the Indonesian congregation really want to hear God's word in their own language and for the language and traditions to continue.
I really appreciate you saying that because I was going to use you as my example. It really is. When you worship in your own language, it makes such a big difference. Any other questions or anything? Yes? Oh, yeah.
I just kind of wanted to pile on. I think it's wonderful, and I hope that we vote yes for this in January. I think you folks are doing such a good job of keeping your community together, and you value it, and I hope we all support it.
Well, thank you all for coming, and we appreciate it, and I hope you will all show up for the annual meeting. Take care.
Thank you.